Um, Bob, the DREAM Act has as its focus, the DREAM Act is a legislative proposal that would legalize the status of people brought into this country as minors, as children by their parents before they were able to make that choice on their own. It deals with the fact that many of these people find themselves in an untenable situation legally and practically as a result of a choice that was made for them before they were old enough legally to act. This is a very sympathetic group of immigrants to this country, and yet they find themselves in a very difficult spot. President Obama was unable to get the DREAM Act to pass through Congress, and after he was unable to achieve that through Congress, rather than continuing to work with Congress to address the concerns that had stopped it from passing, he took action on his own and through executive order basically forced through a set of policies tantamount to the DREAM Act. Now, this, I believe, was in excess of his authority, and regardless of the fact that this is a very sympathetic group of immigrants who were affected by this, it still doesn't give him the power to undo the law as he undertook it. I believe that Congress has the ability and the obligation to take action here to resolve the plight of those who fall into this circumstance. I do think at the same time that we do that, we need to clarify certain provisions of the law. We need to answer some questions, including what happens to the parents who brought those same children into the country unlawfully at the time they entered without authorization to do so. If we do nothing on that front, then the citizenship status of the DREAM kids, as they're sometimes described, could be wrapped around and could create a chain immigration type of relationship in which a number of other people could be made citizens just by virtue of the fact that the DREAM kids were legalized. Now, this is a bit of an issue. It makes it a bigger question when we consider the fact that there are an estimated 750,000 DREAM kids in America. A relatively small number in some respects, and yet it's roughly the population of the District of Columbia, hardly a sparsely populated place. But when you add in all the people who could be brought in through chain migration, once those 750,000 people become citizens, if there are no restrictions, for example, on the parents who brought them in here unlawfully, that could be incentivizing more of the same type of illegal behavior that brought them here in the first place, more of the same type of incentives that have subjected a lot of children in the last few years alone to some very dangerous circumstances in which people will go to great lengths to send their children, sometimes by themselves, sometimes through organized crime networks, to get into the United States. If we want to solve our border security problem, and if we want to discourage illegal immigration, we can't undertake actions that take no regard for what happens when we incentivize illegal immigration. We are a nation of immigrants. Most of us are either immigrants ourselves or the descendants of someone who immigrated to this country. I hope that we always will be a nation that welcomes immigrants. We do want them to come through a legal, lawful process, and we've got to take that into account whenever we undertake any legislative revision of our immigration code.